before you go off into a game, you might come up with a few different ideas of how you might play. One of those might be to play a slower, more ambush style of game, where you're observing, taking your time, not moving around so much. Times like that, that's when you might afford to take with you some more encumbering pieces of equipment that are going to play a role in that type of game style. For example, one of these periscopes, or a set of binoculars, or a spotting scope. And you might not actually take a rifle with you depending on the terrain. Here you can see I have a pistol, and that's out next to me all the time, and I'm going to be operating a lot on the floor just in this one position. So have a think about your game style, come up with some ideas, and then take with you into the game what you're going to need. Here we have a periscope, very lightweight, a mixture of aluminium and ABS construction. It's got a 4x magnification with a 30mm optic. As you can see, it's got coated prism at the top here, rather than using mirrors, which some use. And at the bottom here, we have a hood that can be folded back for when you're using eye protection, such as this. You have a removable handle for transportation, just to cut the length down a little bit, and it fully extends, as you can see here. Very useful for this kind of work where you're laid up in dead ground. You want to observe different areas, but you don't want to move around and become visible. This thing with a couple of elastic bands and some real tree tape, and we've found if you hold it at an angle rather than vertical, it doesn't draw the eye quite as much. And just trying to get into the discipline of not fully extending it and having it waving above your position, just have it peeking out, and using slow movement and bothering to take your time observing. No one's really going to spot you. If you're going to bother to wear all this stuff, spend the time camouflaging it, then you've actually got to get something out of it in the game. And it becomes a lot more important when you go onto a single shotgun or you have limited ammunition games. So using these guns, it becomes a different mindset. Now this is the thing, you've got to think, a lot of people would say, you know, hunter of the gaming field. But I'd suggest that you want a different mindset. You want the mindset of the prey. You want to be thinking defensive all the time. You want to be thinking about early withdrawals. You want to be thinking about passing up shots, and you want to be thinking about making the few shots that you do make really count. That's how you're going to actually be really effective in this style of play. So think more like you're the prey. Yeah, at times you're going to be the hunter, but it's only at certain times, and not for long, to be honest, because once you've fired, you're going to be the prey again. So you want to be thinking about evasion, you want to be thinking about, you know, outwitting your opponent, not being in the area he's just heard your shot coming from. You've already gone, you've not waited around for an engagement. You know, that's fallen into his hands. So while you're out there with your bolt action or your limited firing gun, you've got to be trying to optimise the amount of time that you're in a situation where if you do end up in an engagement, that it's to your advantage. And the main way you're going to do that is for it to be at longer range. You know, this is a problem with stealth play. If you're really good at it, it's really easy to get close to people, but that's not really where you're going to be most effective, unless you, of course, just taking a pistol or something like that as your only gun, which you can easily do. This is a great gun. You know, it's accurate, it's got good range, powerful, holds plenty of shots, it's semi-automatic, it's very, very small. That's the advantage of this thing over a rifle, is the fact that you can crawl around easier, you can move around easily, you can turn the gun round close to your body. That's very hard to do with a rifle if you're laid in a position and you suddenly realise someone's coming from 45 degrees to the right. It's actually quite hard to manoeuvre around without giving yourself away, whereas with a pistol, smaller gun, it becomes a lot easier.
Now when you're out on the patrol, you're stalking, you've got to remember there's 4 objectives that you're trying to accomplish. Number 1, you're trying to spot your opponent before he spots you. And number 2, you're thinking about the chessboard and you're thinking where you need to manoeuvre to get your shot off to the best effect. 3, you need to actually make the shot. It's a tough one, a lot of practice is required and to some degree a small amount of luck. And then number 4, you need to be thinking of your strategy of either evasion or following up.
Playing with these single shotguns, bothering to wear all of this clothing, spending the time camouflaging it all, it's all got to be worth it. You don't want to end up just running around with other players who are playing an AEG style game. You know, it's all been a waste of time. You might as well not be wearing the gear, you might as well probably have an electric gun, or at least that's my opinion. So you need to be dedicated in the game to play a harder style of game that uses your edges and diminishes the advantages that electric guns and team play can have. Because obviously this is one of your other problems, is the fact that you might be up against several opponents in a team. Now if they're a good team, it's actually going to be very, very hard. You know, if they're not such a good team, not so organised, they're not used to playing with each other, and they allow themselves to get spread up, you know, that's when you're going to probably have a field day.
Whatever happens, you've got to stay alert, stay switched on. Don't nod off and start thinking about something else. This is quite hard to do for a full day or 2 days, but it's something that you've always got to be aware of, is that you're concentrating on the game